All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, I'll be doing my preview and prediction for the LA Bowl going down on Saturday, December 13th from Inglewood in SoFi, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Huskies, 8.5-point favorites. 53.5 is that total. Anything started with that Boise offense on the Washington defense for Boise State. They just won another Mountain West championship. Maddox Madsen came back from injury after missing a couple of games. He last played on the 1st of November. That's when he got hurt early on in that contest, and he was great. 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also ran for another score as well. He was very effective against that Rebel defense. It's not a very good defense, of course. I figured they'd pick him up more so on the ground compared to through the air, but he had a field day. They have some nice receivers. Latrell Caples, 547 and 3 scores. Chris Marshall's averaging 19 yards per catch. Chase Penry has been solid. They also have Matt Water at tight end, who's a very good player. This is a team on offense that has all of a sudden found some balance. The last couple of games, they've been very good through the air. Going up against a Washington run defense that's very stout, though, you're definitely going to want to try and find some balance. This is a run game for Boise. That's a great trio of running backs. Dylan Riley, over 1,000 yards, 10 scores. Syer Gaines has another 795 and 8 touchdowns. And Malik Sherrod, 406 and 4 scores. They all had pretty good afternoons against Fresno. Sherrod, I think he ended up having a long rushing touchdown that was called back. Or maybe not. No, it was a receiving touchdown. Okay, never mind. It was the receiving touchdown he caught from Madsen. It was like a screen he ended up housing from long distance, 40, 50 yards out. So I think all those guys ended up scoring against Fresno. It's a nice trio of backs. That aforementioned Husky run defense is no slouch. 103 yards per game allowed this year. They've not been bad. They've only given up over 150 twice. That was to Wisconsin in a loss. And then Michigan, they lost that game as well. They didn't get torched. They didn't allow over 200 once this year on the ground. They've been very competitive throughout the season in the trenches. They don't really have too many standouts. This is just kind of a by-committee group. Elanias Davids, Ontario Thompson has been pretty good this year. Bryce Butler as well. Jacob Lane's probably been their best edge, even though he's not great against the run. Zach Durfee as well. I think he's a phenomenal pass rusher. So they do have some guys that can make things happen off the edge. And this Boise offensive line, for the most part, this year was not great. The last 2 games have been much better. Cage Casey at left tackle is one of the better ones in the country. Has allowed 5 sacks this year, though. And over on the right side, Davon Matewer, he's awful. He's not been great for them, so allowing a lot of pressure. The right guard position's kind of been an area of weakness under Roger Carrion. I think they're a little bit better at left guard and center. Jason Steele's also had, a bit of an uphill battle this year. So this is an offensive line for Boise. At times, it's just not been great. When Madsen went down with injury, they had 2 games against Fresno and San Diego State where they only scored 7 points each. They were not able to generate much without their quarterback at the helm. Finally figured things out without him against Colorado State and Utah State. I definitely think that this is an offense that can struggle against that defense. You look at the middle of the defense for Washington, some pretty respectable linebackers. Devin Bryant has been good. Xeri Alexander. These guys have been good against the run, not so much in coverage. They're going to look to draw those matchups against those tight ends. They can make things happen with their hands. The secondary, you're wondering if they're going to be at full strength, this year. Takario Davis has really battled injuries. You wonder if he's just going to call it a day, go ahead and opt into the draft. Ephasanis Prysock, on the other hand, has been a great starter for them in coverage. You want to obviously monitor what's going to happen with those guys. I think that Alex McLaughlin's been a phenomenal safety this year. He can line up all over, slot, free safety, in the box. He's the team leader in tackles. He's great against the run. Shows a lot of effort in coverage as well. Markel Easton has not been as good in coverage, probably more of a below-average safety, but a guy that's still a respectable starter at the end of the day. And then Rayshawn Clark, I think, in the slots had a pretty good season in coverage. And, Boise doesn't exactly have a whole lot of burners. They do have some talented pass catchers, but nothing this secondary can't contain. Moving to the other side of things, the Washington offense on that Boise defense for Washington this year. DeMond Williams, this was a guy that I was hyping up significantly in the offseason. He had a relatively good year. I thought he would land on the Heisman podium. Didn't quite happen, right? 287 yards per game. He had a 500-yard game at one point against Rutgers earlier on in the season. Really struggled against those tougher defenses. Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State really had this offense's number. They scored less than 10 points in all 3 of those games. And then against Oregon, another tough defense, really gave him a lot of issues. Had 2 picks, 129 yards. Now, they put up a valiant effort. They were in scoring position a lot more than the 14 points would indicate. So this is an offense that definitely has struggled against the tougher defenses. Boise's not going to fit into that category, so they should be able to get off what they want. Obviously, you want to monitor again what's going to happen with guys like Jonah Coleman, who've had a great year. 14 rushing touchdowns from him. And then Denzel Boston at receiver. Is he going to declare for the draft? Is he going to stay put? 755 and 10 touchdowns from him. He's just heck of a downfield playmaker. Obviously, they want him to play if they can in this game. If not, Desmond Roebuck, he's going to take over as the top receiver as a freshman this year, 554 yards and 6 scores. Decker DeGraff at tight end has been a very good player for them. Guys like Amari Evans, Raiden Vines, Bright will have to get involved. So it's going to be next man up if they're without Boston by chance. At running back, I think Adam Muhammad will do very well if he ends up being the running back one. 500-plus yards, 5 scores this year. He had back-to-back 100-yard games to finish off the season against the Ducks and the Bruins. So I think they're going to be just fine there. I think this is a really good offensive line for Washington. A lot of clean pockets this year for Williams. Carver Willis, a phenomenal player at left tackle. Over at right tackle, Drew Azzopardi has been tremendous. So I love the tackle duo that they have. A little bit weaker on the interior. John Mills at left guard, though, has been a stud for them, whenever he was playing. And then the other spots, a little bit weaker. But Mills, he came back from injury, and he was rock solid in pass protection after some hiccups early on in the season. I think Williams, though, is just such a playmaker. He's such an efficient player, 70% comp rate. He can really air things out with a strong arm. His elusiveness as a runner is very impressive. About 600 yards and 6 scores rushing. So this is a guy that can make things happen. He put on a show last year in the bowl game. And what was his second career start? So Williams has a lot of experience now. Going up against a Boise State defense that they've been not great. 164 yards allowed per game on the ground. For the most part, the back half of the year, despite being the Mountain West champions, this was a big area of concern for them. They allowed 180-plus yards in 4 of the final 5 games. They did hold Colorado State to only 39 yards. I mean, congratulations, but it just doesn't seem like it's a theme for this defense to be great against the run. I do think they have guys up front like Max Stieg, Braxton Felly on the interior, and a nice edge rusher in Jaden Virgin Morgan who can get things done. 10 tackles for loss and 4 sacks for him. So it's still a talented group, and they can be competitive. I just think against this offensive line, they're probably going to be fighting an uphill battle. They have a nice linebacker, Marco Notarani, 69 tackles this year, a couple tackles for loss. The biggest thing I like is that the secondary has really improved in terms of their overall effectiveness. 171 pass yards per game allowed. You've seen flashes of this last year, but ultimately they still allowed a lot of yards. And their completion percentage has also went down as well, 53.9%. So this is a group that's been really hard to throw against. It's a veteran group led by safety Ty Benefield, having a heck of a season back there. As a center fielder for this team, he can play a lot in the slot, get up in the box. Another one of those guys who does a little bit of everything. Zion Washington alongside him. He's had some struggles this year, though. But it's really just been this cornerback duo, Amari and McCoy, Jeremiah Irby. These guys have been tremendous in coverage this season. I think this is obviously a big strong suit for them. McCoy, though, the last couple of weeks has not played due to injury. I'm not sure if he's going to be available in this one. And now that I look, it looks like he did have season-ending knee surgery a little bit ago, so that's obviously not great for this defense, missing him. But they still were able to get things done without him. And then, they've had a lot of guys step up. Jaden Mickey in the slot's been tremendous this year, at least in coverage against the run and as a tackler. He's just not really cutting the mark. And I think against this run game, they're going to need all hands on deck, and these DBs have not been really great in that regard of getting up and making plays in the box. More so just their coverage skills have been important. 14 interceptions on the year. McCoy, obviously had 4 of those. Irby had another 4. So this cornerback duo was tremendous. Sherrod Smith, though, the sophomore, he's going to have to get involved more now as a starting corner. They have some tough matchups, of course. But I think Boise in this one, I think they can probably find some pass rush, even though these tackles are really good. I think the interior, they might be able to have some nice wins to at least put Washington in occasional long down and distances, second and third and long. But Williams is just such a playmaker. I don't know if they're going to have the capability of slowing him down. Because this defense, they were able to outscore UNLV in 2 games, and they were able to have a much better effort in a second one here just a couple days ago. But they've not been good against the run, and I think the secondary is definitely going to be having a bit of an uphill climb against a talented quarterback here. Looking at the final thoughts and the prediction, I think Boise can cover. It's like an 8.5-point spread. We'll see which way that moves. 31-23 for me. I'm really cutting hairs there on that one. I think the over 53.5 is really in play because I think Boise can have success. I think this is a talented offense. It's not going to get completely stonewalled by any means. And I think Washington's obviously going to do their thing. I think they'll have nice balance in this one to get the job done, the kickoff bowl season. Be it for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.